Morning peeps, good morning everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully, all things considered, you're doing very, very well. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget as well to like and share the vids. We are closing in on 30,000 subscribers. Very happy about that. This video might look a little different. That's because I'm using a different camera and I've not quite fixed or played around with the settings. For the last, I don't know, 1,000 videos, I've been using my old and trusted Samsung S8. A lot of you ask me actually, what do I film with? Just film with this, an old Samsung S8, which I've had for about 3 or 4 years. I just love the settings on it. And I thought, you know what? I've had this S20 that I'm filming with now for a couple of years. Let's try and use it. So we are trying to use the S20 from now on. And again, I'll play around with the settings and the lighting and hopefully we can get it to exactly where it needs to be. Should we talk about what happened in Scotland on Saturday? A lot of you guys have been waiting for this video, I know. I actually did, because I did Talk Sport on Saturday. That's why I didn't do the live watch along. And that finished at 1 a.m. I actually did come to the studio and try and film at around 2 in the morning, but I was far too tired, like really, really tired. And then obviously yesterday I was doing The Zone. So I've had no time to talk about it, but I do really want to talk about it. And in a way, I'm happy that I'm filming today because I've had a couple of times to watch it back. Just because when I was working with TalkSport on Saturday, I was watching it, but I wasn't watching it like properly. Do you know what I mean? I was looking at what people were saying online and I was like, is Josh losing this? And I was tweeting, but I wasn't really giving it its proper due diligence. Yeah? And so I thought, yeah, let me just watch it when I get home properly, because I feel like a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon with regards to, oh, it's a robbery and this and that. So I thought, let me just, before I give my own sort of personal point of view on it, let me just watch it properly, score it, and then I can kind of do this video. Plus, there were a few people that I respect in the boxing game, one of them being Doug Fisher, the managing editor of Ring Magazine, and he scored it for Josh. So I thought, okay, well, what's going on here? Let me just watch the fight properly. Jack won that fight. Sorry for that long speech. Jack won that fight. Jack Catterall won that fight by 3 rounds. And again, I've watched it now once properly. I've watched some highlights of it as well. I've scored it. Look, I'm a Josh fan. So sometimes when you're a fan of someone, you try and find rounds for them. Even as a Josh fan, Jack won that fight by 3. I could maybe even swing to 4 rounds. There's a couple of close rounds in there, but maybe swing to 4. But without a shadow of a doubt, Jack won that by 3. And I'm no judge, obviously. I don't know what the judges are looking at. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know if some judges like aggression, and if they do, they might say, okay, Josh is on the front foot, but aggression without scoring punches doesn't mean anything for me. Jack won that fight by 3 rounds, and boxing has robbed him of, I don't want to say he's never going to have that night again, because who knows, but we know how difficult it is to get all the belts together. So he might become world champion. He might, and we'll talk about how and why that should happen, but he might become world champion. He might win 1 belt. He's never, I don't think, ever going to have an opportunity to fight for all 4 plus the Ring Magazine belt. It's just not going to happen. I mean, it rarely happens. Some of the greatest fighters we've ever seen on this planet haven't had undisputed fights, and they've robbed him of that. They robbed him of changing his life. You know, the thing is, and by the way, I tweeted straight after the fight, I tweeted boxing. And it isn't just boxing, it's all sports. I mean, you guys are big football fans. It happens in football. I mean, we go crazy about VAR. It happens in every single sport. Well, not every, but the majority of sports. But the thing with boxing is that we have this connection with the fighters just because we understand how difficult it is to put yourself into a spot where you're fighting for a world title. We understand that journey, right? That journey starts from an amateur, right, all the way through. And if you don't have that Olympic pedigree behind you, you know you have to do the small hall shows, you have to sell your tickets, you're fighting in front of a man and his dog. You're working your way up and it is difficult. And then you get yourself a mandatory spot where, you know, you're going to be on the bad end of a split. Mandatory is what, 75-25, 80-20 at best. And then you're going to get your title shot. And you're going to work hard. You're going to go through the sparring. I mean, there's going to be times that you think this is just not worth it. You're going to beat your body up. You're going to then try and make weight. All for a fucking judge to say, no, you didn't win it when you did. And not only that, but we understand the money implications as well. This isn't like football. I mentioned it happens in football, and it happens in other sports. It isn't like football. The players are okay, especially in the Premier League. They're on 50 to 400 grand a week. It's okay. Next week they're going to get paid. Boxing, you have no idea when the next big paycheck's coming. We all start to hear these big monies thrown around in boxing. That goes to 1% of the boxers. The other 99% don't get much. So that's what happened with Jack Catterall. Jack Catterall, if he had won that fight correctly, as he should have, his life changes. His life changes. And people will say, oh, calm down, Eddie. No, his life changes because two things happen. Either Josh says, I want a rematch, and he probably would want a rematch. So then big money is now involved, big money, and maybe even Jack Catterall gets the lion's share of that big money, similar to what Kambosos is doing, where Kambosos is like, you want to fight, where's the money? And Kambosos is almost going to the highest bidder. Good luck on him. Or if Josh doesn't want it, every single big fighter at 135 or 140 in America will say, I want that opportunity. Because no disrespect, they'll look at Jack and think, that's a beatable fighter. Gervonta Davis will say, get to America right now, we're going to pay you X, Y, and Z. 100%. Teofimo Lopez and Top Ranker Bob Arum will say, get to America right now, we want those belts. But unfortunately for Jack, he's waking up with a few bruises and everyone going mad on social media, but nothing will happen. Nothing. The British Boxing Board of Control, weak. They're not going to do anything. What are they going to do? Ian John Lewis has done this for years. For years. I remember when I was sort of looking at who the judges were at the end of the fight, because I wasn't quite sure. Again, I was working. I was like, oh, Ian John Lewis. Like, it didn't even surprise me. Steve Goodwin, boxing promoter, does a lot of the small hall shows. He tweeted, he already knew who was going to be the person that gave Josh the fight. Now, look, that to me indicates that he thinks it's corruption. It's bent. Some people have said it's incompetence. I don't think it is incompetence. Like, I can't, you know why I don't think it's incompetence? Look, I'm going to get in trouble when I go to TalkSport today because I know what I said on the show on Saturday, and I've already got an email. They're going to have a word with me. But the reason why I can't call it incompetence is because Ian John Lewis is a former boxer, a known referee. What was he? I think his Twitter page is I am the referee. And he's been a judge. All of that, he's been in the boxing game for 30 plus years. Ever since I was a kid, Ian John Lewis. Oh, Ian, I remember him. So he can't get it wrong. He can't continually get it wrong. Now, when the same thing happens in America, and we all know the judges' names in America, we call it corruption. When it happens here, it's like, incompetence. I'm not having incompetence. He scored that fight to Josh Taylor, 114-111. You can't find 114-111. You can't. I've never seen so many people in unison about a result. You can't score it 114-111 if you tried. You can't. Bear in mind there was a knockdown. They both had points deducted and there was a knockdown. And look, Jack was way up. And some people, I think I've seen Carl Frott say, oh yeah, but you know, after round 10, he was on his bike. Go and look at what happened after round 10 and tell me how many punches Josh Taylor landed on Jack Catterall. Go and look at the punch stats. Again, fuck the aggression thing. If you're not doing work, if you're not landing anything, so be the aggressor. What does that mean? That means absolutely nothing. And look, again, Jack Catterall was robbed, and this isn't a dig at Josh. I like Josh Taylor. I didn't necessarily like his post-fight interview, but I always think it's difficult to shove a mic in a boxer's face immediately after an interview and expect it to be sort of coherent conversations. It's not going to be. They're all over the place. Their brains scrambled, adrenaline's running, etc., etc. Questions need to be fielded to Robert Smith and the British Boxing Board of Control, not to Josh Taylor and Ben Davison about scoring. What are they supposed to say? Yeah, I think we lost. Of course they're going to say we won. But look, it happens so many times now in boxing. It really does. And we had Lerone Richards in the studio with us, IBO super middleweight champ, on TalkSport. And he was even saying what the judges maybe don't understand and what fight fans don't understand is that this changes boxers' lives. Literally, a decision changes your life. It really does. And as I said, I mean, if he won those belts, again, look at what Kambosos is doing. If he won those belts, you're almost putting him up in your next fight to the highest bidder. Whether you win or lose, it would have gone down as undisputed. He's putting his belts up to the highest bidder next. He's making, I'm telling you now, he's making $1 million easy in his next fight. That's life-changing money. And now what happens? Now what happens? And also, let's not forget, he's lost his unbeaten record. It's wrong. It really is wrong. I mean, he's worked with a game plan with Jamie Moore for the best part. Because remember, they were supposed to have this fight before Josh fought Ramirez. They allowed Josh to have the Ramirez fight because they stepped aside. So he's been working on fighting Josh Taylor for the best part of a year. They've worked, they've game planned, they've masterminded. They said, okay, do this when Josh does that. If Josh feints, do this. Be aggressive, clinch when you need to. Jab, move to the left, hit him to the body, throw combinations. They've literally thought, we've worked this out. They're probably at the end of round 12 thinking, oh my God, we did it. You know, hit Jamie Moore, Nigel Travis, all thinking, oh my God, we've done it. We've outworked, outbeat Josh Taylor in his own backyard. And then when it goes to split, I knew something was going on. When I was thinking, how long? And this is what I never understand. And this is when you know it's just fucked up. Whether or not a fight, is easy, so it's comfortable where you know someone's won, or it's difficult, a decision should never take longer than 2 minutes, because you've been, how long does it take to add up 10s and 9s and 8s? I mean, you can get a fucking school kid to do that in seconds. When that shit starts taking 5 minutes, as it did with Jack Catterall, Josh Taylor, you know there's a problem. Am I right or am I right? You wrote down the scores round per round, 10-9, 10-8, whatever you wrote them down. All you got to do is add them up and then pass it to the ref. Sorry, pass it to the main judge, the head judge, and then give it to the announcer. Why has that shit got to take 7 minutes? You know there's a problem when it starts to take that long. You know where there is. And look, this is not, I've done the thumbnail as disgraceful. This isn't me trying to dig out Josh, because I made a video the other day saying Josh should fight Terence Crawford. This is just boxing. It really is. It's boxing, and it hurts because, again, you start to build up a relationship with these fighters, even though you don't know them. You just start to almost understand the struggles, because boxing's unlike any other sport. In the sense that because we have the promoters that talk and the promoters that dig each other and fighters that talk, you really start to understand the sport game. This game. So when something happens like that to a fighter, it can be a bit painful. It really can. It can be a bit painful. Look, Josh wasn't great, was he? Josh was really off. Really, really off. He's going to go to 147. He did look like he was struggling at the weigh-in, like he looked really gaunt. I mean, I don't think even Josh will stay long at 147. I think he'll go to 154. Josh is a lot bigger than all those 147s as well. But we'll see what he does now. I mean, look, the record books will say he won. And if you won, and he's now undisputed and he's cleaned out 140, really and truly, he should be going straight in at a big name at 147. Because of that performance, though, I think we have to rein the Terence Crawford talk in. And he might have to, look at, I don't know, European champion Avanesian, maybe. I don't know. Kavaliauskas. I know these are names that are always mentioned, but these are kind of the gatekeepers before you get the real big boys of the division. So he might look at that. For Jack Catterall, you have to just go again. Obviously, you have to go on holiday, enjoy what you've done. Know now that you're a world level fighter, which is big. Like, he would have gone into that fight unsure. Now he knows where he belongs, and just get down to business again in the summer. Look, the good thing is Josh will vacate all those belts, and I think the least that can happen by some of the sanctioning bodies, and this has nothing to do with the British Boxing Board of Control, obviously, but the sanctioning bodies can at least put him in a mandatory spot, or at least let him fight for one of the vacant titles. At least let him do that. And look, that's not the same, but at least give him that opportunity. The minimum, innit? The minimum. Guys, look, anyway, what do you think about it? What can happen? I spoke to Eddie Hearn yesterday on the DAZN broadcast, and he's like, more needs to be done. I mentioned suspensions, judges being moved on. Like, it's the same fucking judges. Honestly, I'm not joking. Since I was a kid, I've just heard these names all the time, and we got some good ones, but you always hear Howard Foster, Victor Lachlan, Ian John Lewis. It's just names you always hear. I think we need to start freshening it up a little bit, honestly, because yeah, I just feel like it needs to change, because I do feel like some of these judges just get a bit too familiar with the fighters sometimes, smiles and waves, and that can sway you a little bit. That it really can. Imagine, look, I'm not trying to say there's interactions outside of, but when a boxer goes past and it's a little nod to the judge, like, hi, how are you? How's your family? You might sway around to him, just based on that. So I feel like we need to just have a refresh of the judges. But yeah, it's a disgraceful decision. Feel sorry for Jack, but again, this is boxing, people. Who's shocked?